As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by the Duck Hunter. Utah State University is about to create the state's first ever College of Veterinary Medicine, thanks to a commitment by the Utah legislature to provide ongoing state funding. For the last 10 years, USU has been part of a regional program in veterinary medicine where students complete 2 years of study in Logan and move to Pullman, Washington for their final 2 years of training at Washington State. Ken White, USU's Dean and Vice President for Agriculture and Extension, said the need for veterinarians in Utah helped drive the legislature's decision.
Utah is 42nd in the country with respect to the number of veterinarians per capita of population of the state. So, there's plenty of room for us to grow. On top of that, with the pandemic and people looking for additional companionship, the pet ownership has really skyrocketed. So those two things combined have really created a tremendous need in the state of Utah for additional veterinarians.
In the current agreement with Washington State, USU admits up to 30 students each year, 20 of whom must be Utah residents. Dr. White said those numbers are about to change.
Well, we'll transition to initially about 40 to 45 students. And then once we have all the facilities in place, our plan is to transition up to 80 students. So we'll have 80 students per class, which will eventually create 4 classes in the college, and we'll have a total of 320 students in the college.
Dr. White said most of us need a veterinarian to care for a family pet, but animal agriculture is a $1 billion enterprise in Utah, which contributes to the statewide demand for veterinarians. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather tonight, partly cloudy, low 0 to 5 above. Partly cloudy in the morning, then becoming sunny, high around 30. And then partly cloudy, then clearing on Saturday, around 40 for the high. It's been to 27. It's 24 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Work with their Cache Valley team to build a stronger, more durable, long-lasting structure for your needs today. Visit northernsteelbuilding.com or call 435-677-7300.
John at the Duck Hunter asks, have you ever checked the dryer vent cover on the outside of your home? It could be broken, full of lint, or worse yet, you could have an unwanted guest living in it. John suggests you check your dryer vent today. And if you can't, call John at the Duck Hunter. He'll do a visual inspection and if needed, run a camera through the dryer vent line to see what's going on in there. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. The 12th annual Cache Valley Cowboy Rendezvous is on this week through Sunday at the Cache County Event Center at the fairgrounds. On Tuesday, the Rendezvous founder Dale Major said he still runs into people who have not heard of it.
Whether you like it or not, whether you come or not, I guess is your decision. But my job, I think, is to make sure you know it's there, and so we do quite a bit to promote that. That actually came as an idea. My kids and I perform a little bit, and we went to an event where we played on the open mic. Coming home, I thought, Cache Valley ought to be able to run something like this, support something like that, and that's kind of what started it out. And I talked to I had some good friends that I ran the idea past, and they all said, hey, yeah. That's good. We'll help you out.
Major credits Ernie Seitz for exploring the educational side that became a part of the Rendezvous Week. They go into schools thanks to a grant from the Sorensen Legacy Foundation, and they teach creative writing, guitar, how to play the harmonica. And Seitz, who was also on the program, talked about the experience.
The children are wonderful. I mean, today, I must say today, I entertain everything from like third graders to sixth graders in different period classes. And the kids were very, very respectable. And, there's always a few that act like I did when I was that age.
Me too.
Also on the program were Chris Mortensen and John Chandler, and they gave us a sample of some of their music.
Oh, could it be right? Oh, could it be wrong? Could it be wasting my time all along? Could it be better off on my own? Or could it be right? Whoa. Why don't you try pick one?
You can get the whole schedule, including their virtual viewing options, at cbcowboy.org. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Taking news to an all-new level. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
You already know H&R Block does taxes, but you may not know you can get expert help in person or virtually, or that our tax pros average 10 years of experience. You can even request the same tax pro every year, and your biggest possible refund is always guaranteed. At H&R Block, help is here. All tax situations are different. Not everyone gets a refund. Limitations apply. See hrblock.com/guarantee.
Make your appointment with H&R Block in Logan by calling 752-1651. That's 752-1651, or download the H&R Block app. Proud to be locally owned and operated. H&R Block in Logan.
This is the season to stock up. It's the Napa Gold Filter Sale. Up to 60% off all filters, tractors, four-wheelers, backhoes, even lawnmowers. If it's got a filter, it's on sale at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts. While supplies last, Chevron Dello 15W40, $13 a gallon. Napa Synthetic Motor Oil, $3.89 a quart. Stock up big before oil prices increase. Seafoam Mortar Treatment, $6 a can. The Napa Gold Filter Sale now through March 15th.
Napa know-how. Napa know-how. When looking for your next pre-owned vehicle, look to the name that Utah has trusted for their automotive needs for over 95 years. For generations, Murdoch Automotive has given Utah pre-owned car, truck, and SUV buyers a comfortable, no-pressure buying experience. At Murdoch, we've got the largest used vehicle inventory in the state with over 1,000 used vehicles to choose from. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Hyundai in Logan or online at murdochhyundailogan.com.
Call 866-628-2065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 3/31/22.
Friday edition Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. We got a couple of awesome guests to give you the latest on the COVID insanity as masks on planes ain't going away. Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo and Alex Berenson, the COVID truth tellers, plus Buck.
More on the war in Ukraine, the U.S. and NATO role in all this. We'll give you battlefield updates and more coming up on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. Coming up this hour, we'll hear from Vice President Ken White on this much-talked-about new veterinary school at Utah State University. Funding for this was set aside by the legislature just weeks ago, and we had a chance to speak with Cash Chamber CEO and President about this, and she told us this was probably the bill they were watching the most closely because of what it means for Cache Valley's economy and business culture. How did it all happen? Well, we'll find out coming up later on. But right now, joined by a very special guest to talk to us about one of my favorite cities in the Valley. And I have to throw this out, too. I am pretty neutral on this. I don't live in North Logan. They don't pay me to say this. I don't get anything for saying this. But North Logan and Nibley stand out here in Cache Valley as two cities who have really kind of raised the bar, pushed the envelope, whatever phrase you want to use there, when it comes to a lot of different things, from interacting with residents on social media in creative ways to really just making sure that the monthly calendar is full of events, to focusing on, you know, the overall experience of average residents or people who come through the city via surveying and things like that. It's really just fun to talk about these cities that I think are really setting an example for others. So thank you for joining us. Well, first off, tell listeners who you are and what you do with Logan City. Sorry.
No,
I know you,
fine.
so I just kind of started. But.
Yeah, that's fine. My name's Jesse Howe here, and I am the recreation director for North Logan City, and it's kind of interesting you talked about Nibley because I actually internshiped in Nibley.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I know.
Did you have to deal with that Zook guy?
Zook guy, just a little bit.
He's
there.
a troublemaker. He's joining us Monday, so I can say that now, not Monday. But that's very cool because Nibley is another. Honestly, these are two cities that I've really watched close because both cities have been very creative in how they've done several things that cities traditionally do. But your job specifically at North Logan, I'm not kidding when I say well, let me put it this way. We have slow days sometimes, slow news days. And so those are the days I go through the local calendars and see what's going on and see if there's a potential guest for our listeners. And I always start with the North Logan calendar because it's usually a full calendar.
Yeah, we have a lot of things going on, especially coming up the end of this month, March 25th. It's a Friday. We're going to do a health and wellness fair in the RSL building. So we got over 40 vendors coming. It's going to be a free event from like 6 to 8 p.m.
Really?
Yeah, we'll have games for the kids. And
that is... Now, how did that come about? This is not something every city does. How do you get 40 different vendors? And by vendors, we mean, any type of health and wellness product or service, right?
Yeah, exactly. We put it out on Facebook to see who would be interested in being a vendor. We've got people like the Family Place coming, Foot Zoner. We got Citrus Pear coming to talk about nutrition and freezer meals. NutriShop. Somebody's going to bring a 3D body scan, so you can come get that checked out. Fire department, our own parks department's going to come and talk about trails and things like that. We just got a ton of people coming. It's educational, especially there's going to be a new one that just kind of popped up recently. It's helped build confidence in girls. She runs a little course there. Which would be pretty interesting. We'll have some demonstrations of people, like we have a jump rope team is going to do a jump roping demonstration.
Oh, wow.
Martial arts, too. It's going to be crazy. And
this
we're
sounds like
a rock wall.
Sounds like people might break a sweat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is very cool. This is and a great way to start off here, a great example of what I mean, because it's really hard to talk about these things without feeling like I'm disparaging another city. And so I hope no one hears my comments this way. But a lot of times you do see cities that tend to just sort of fall back on what's already happening. And in North Logan, you're making certain things happen, right? There's a goal. Do you guys have meetings and say, okay, this month we want to make an event like this happen or a series of events like this happen? Or is it more of just an overall focus in the city? Because I know, activity and outdoor recreation has been an ongoing focus, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, a lot of times with the process of coming up with new ideas is we always keep trying to be innovative and always trying to do something new or change a little bit of our activities just a little bit to try to make it more interesting, keep kids' attention, especially in our sports aspect. A lot of times we'll get together and we'll come up with some ideas, or we'll search other cities, which is kind of surprising. Plagiarism, I guess you could say. But, copy their ideas.
It's fair game, I think.
It's like sometimes I'll look at Nibley's website as well and get some ideas from them, or I'll bounce some ideas off some colleagues throughout Utah and just have a good time. Next week we have a little conference in St. George where we go and we'll discuss different new ideas and with all the rec people from throughout Utah, so that's going to be fun. I'll come out with a whole bunch more ideas after that.
Does looming drought play? Does this change things a bit? I know a lot of cities had put in splash pads and have water-related events through the summer, but last summer, pretty bad drought. This summer, not quite as bad, but still probably going to be a drought. So do you axe certain things that were planned? Does that force you to have to, get a little more creative?
It definitely does. A lot of times, normally during our Pioneer Day, we have the fire department come spray water every year.
Oh, I've seen that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Last year we didn't do it because of the drought, so we had to change a few things up. A lot of times our parks crew will let the grass go a little bit yellow, not as green as usual, just kind of save water that way, but still enough that we can play sports and it'll recover.
Sure. This is, I know, we spoke with the mayor last month, and she talked a lot about open space, and that's a big focus. As North Logan is everywhere in the valley, everywhere in the state grows, there's a conscious effort to be talking now about setting aside some open space, and that requires your department has to plan and kind of orchestrate all of that, right?
Yeah,
with the future in mind.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more houses going up left and right, so parks are getting. If we don't plan for it now, it's not going to happen. And then we also schedule our fields too, and we usually try to keep them as busy as we can, or sports or citizens come and play in the park. So we have a couple of really big parks, our Elkridge Park, and kind of over by Green Canyon High School. That's 2 huge areas, which is nice.
Well, one of the best kept secrets in the valley, you don't have to be a North Logan resident to use them.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who take advantage of that, but North Logan's uniquely situated when it comes to proximity to the university, but also being in a part of town that, at one point, I live at the south end of the valley, so at one point, I remember when I was a kid, when they built Kmart, which is, I forget the actual address now, it's now Cow Ranch, and everyone laughed. Why would you build so far north? No one's going there. I remember people saying that when I was a kid, and now, Logan doesn't end at 14th North. The business district of Cache Valley now extends into Hyde Park, so it encompasses North Logan, and that's growing more and more every year. And you're looking at all this as the recreation director. You've got the Real building that you mentioned. You've got the Eccles Arena there. You've got all this open space and parks, and I know students coming down all the time, from housing near campus to take advantage of that. But you also have a growing number of residents. What do you hear from them? What do people in North Logan want for the future?
They definitely love the parks in the city. We definitely do have a lot of facilities, which is great. And with all these new houses coming in, our sports programs and activities are growing crazy right now. It's hard to keep up. Things like that, they definitely love all the little amenities we put in. I know at Elkridge Park we put in a little permanent 9 square that they can play, and we have a Gaga pit. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
I didn't know you had one, but that's cool.
Yep, and then we're going to do pickleball courts are coming real soon.
Ooh, that's a pretty popular thing these days.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Lawmakers squared off in a Pickleville game in the center area of the Capitol down there, and I didn't realize what an aggressive sport that is. They were getting pretty, So Parks and Recreation in North Logan, obviously connected like everything else is, and Cache County is working on this overall trail system. But I know, I have some friends, North Logan residents, and they tell me you can get on a bike and travel quite a distance in North Logan. Yeah,
we're planning our trail system. I believe it's going to be connecting from Green Canyon. You can probably go all the way down to First Dam.
Wow. That's very cool.
Yeah, just a nice little stroll or a bike ride.
That is... So I know, obviously this world that you function in is you have to consider budgets and master plans and all of that, but you've gotten to know North Logan pretty well now. If you could just wave a magic wand as a Parks and Rec director, what would you bring into the city, or I mean, I guess what would you take out of the city that matches what you're hearing from residents and what they'd like to see? Because there are some challenges, right? You're surrounded by other cities.
Yep.
You can only change so much, right?
Right, and we do get residents from other cities come to our sports, and which is great. The one thing I do hear, and I really don't know the likelihood of it happening, is a swimming pool. I need more swimming pools in this place, like indoor ones for kids to play, and then the high school needs a swimming pool too. They go to Skyview for their practices and meets. That's probably the big thing there. Probably if I had it my way, I'd do a swimming pool and I think 3 basketball gyms. That's all I need, and then I'll be set.
You'll be set.
Yeah, there's never enough basketball space.
It's a lot of people, especially folks who maybe don't care about an ice arena or the Real building there. To put that in perspective for everyone, those parking lots are always full.
Oh, yeah, especially on a hockey game night.
Sure. That's a USU game, or even some of the amateur leagues that play. Those parking lots fill up, and I know, most people there are stopping to buy gas on their way in or out. They're maybe grabbing some food. And so that has to mean a lot of conversations between Parks and Recreation and economic development as well are happening as North Logan grows. I'd love to be on fly on the wall, but but tell us what you can.
Well, we do definitely bring a lot, and parking is usually sometimes an issue in the evening. But I think as soon as we get some more, it's hard to get a lot of like food businesses because the road the speed limit's pretty high.
55, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of hindering some restaurants from joining. We do have a few in North Logan, but that's kind of the big push is to try to get some restaurants in there. Because, like you said, we do have a lot. Like the Tour of Utah comes in July, and that fills like every hotel room.
Literally.
Yeah, there's a soccer tournament, and then like these events that come on, like hockey games, our health and wellness fair, Pioneer Day. We have a lot of visitors that come and fill the place.
It's interesting to me because, having been exposed to both sides of this, most people don't think of, when you think Parks and Rec and you think economic development, they don't think of those two as being, very synced. But with a growing city like North Logan, they're intimately synced, right? What you do with your department with Parks and Recreation is one of the anchors that draws people in as residents, as visitors, all of that. It's challenging, though.
It is challenging, especially we get a lot of new move-ins, and they try to get signed up for a sport, and we already filled up, and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry. Let's get you signed up for the next one, But it is a good draw to bring like residents in who are building new homes. Like we have these beautiful parks, and we have an amazing rec department that goes above and beyond. So they kind of look for things, and usually by word of mouth, we spread out pretty good. Like a lot of people talk about us. Yeah,
well, in the events that happen in North Logan, I even find myself in North Logan more often, for events that happen. And that you can obviously see that increasing, but 10 years from now, what's required of Parks and Rec for residents of North Logan? I know there's some apprehension out there, some anxiety over the growth, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people still want there's a few farms in North Logan by the library. They still want to keep that rural feel, but with these houses coming in, it's kind of hard to do that. And we're trying to expand some of our park areas where we can have more parking, so that usually sometimes is an issue. So 10 years down the road, I'm not really sure.
There'll be more people, right? That's the one guarantee we're all sure of.
I'm having a hard time getting to next week.
But that speaks to how busy things are, right? And back to what we started with, the calendar and all these events that you can go see. Oh, by the way, for listeners, northlogancity.org, where I'm looking at here. But if you click on news and events in the calendar, there's just a lot. And as we've discussed, that takes affirmative action by the city to make those happen. So the city has to take steps. How, as you're adding new things to this, is there a direct feedback loop with residents, or do you kind of trial and error it? Plan an event, see if people show up?
That's always a good question. Is it a shot in the dark? Just throw a softball
because you never know,
out there
right?
and see what happens. That's true. You really don't know. A lot of it is if we feel like it's a really good idea. Like this summer, we're going to do a thing called Touch a Truck, and kids can climb in a truck, a semi truck, or a fire truck, and stuff like that.
Just kids, huh? No adults.
I guess you could. You could.
Because I'd be there for that.
So that was kind of a new concept. We know other cities did it, and we actually did it 2 years ago, and it turned out to be a big, huge success. Has anything failed before? Yes. I've had a few fun runs fail.
Oh, that's too bad.
Some things you just plan and plan and plan, and just no one signs up, and you're like, well, it's no point right now.
Sure.
So yeah, it definitely happens. But normally, I mean, if you kind of hit a few categories, is it family friendly? Will kids have stuff to do while you're at your event?
Yeah,
because if it's just
a lot of families, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of families, and if you bring cornhole, usually you'll have a good time. Or
there's always a grouping around the cornhole game, right?
Yeah,
it's again just fun to look through the list of events at North Logan City, and this is without even talking about the library. Some of the other events that businesses in North Logan have planned, but there is a lot of activity, and that draws residents not only to the city, but draws them out of their homes. And with this wellness fair coming up, this is part of the city's effort to help people be healthier. But overall, in Parks and Rec, you guys are putting a lot into making sure people are more active as well, right?
Yeah, our biggest struggle or fight against is people on their phone or video games. Anything we can do to keep them active is always a win. So
sure. Do you hear from parents on that? Do you have parents that will come to one of the Parks and Rec meeting and like, my kids, they're just glued to their devices?
Usually we see them.
You don't have to be tipped off. Huh?
Or sometimes they'll get messages like, we started for soccer. We added this older age group. It's small-sided. It's really active and really fast. And this was one thing I was like, oh man, this might fail. We had like 3 teams our first season. I was like, okay, we played each other. Kids loved it because it was so fast-paced. And right now we're up to like 10 teams, and it's just still, it's just still growing amazing. There. And anything I can do to like get them active is the big part. Get them away from that TV.
This is a great comment coming from a listener. I'm not sure this falls under the Parks and Rec umbrella, but maybe you know about the decision. But a listener says, just want to thank North Logan City for some recent changes to school crosswalks and crossing guards near the high school. It's a lot safer there than I've noticed in other parts of the valley. I'm not sure what they're referencing. I know there was some painting that was done, but that was a while ago.
I'm not really sure on that either. I know they've definitely did a big push for crossing guards. Like they've been short for previous years.
Oh, it looks like that's what they're referencing. I'm sorry, I misread.
Oh, okay.
For bringing back the crossing guard or getting the crossing guards back in that intersection. Okay.
Yeah, we've hired a lot more crossing guards I think we ever had this year, and more advertising for it. So, yeah, I agree. It has been a lot better.
That is. Jesse, I appreciate taking the time to come down and talk to us about this. Anything we're leaving off the table here, events you want to make sure people know about? Or
probably a new one we're also trying out this year is a color run. So, you throw chalk in the air and get covered in chalk, that sort of stuff. This one is actually going to be towards a fundraiser for the library and their new civic center that they're trying to build.
Oh, very cool.
So we're going to try to raise $1,000 there. But
wow. And that's coming up in...
That'll be actually April 16th,
oh, April.
Easter weekend. We'll have the Easter Bunny there, too. I'm debating whether to drench him in chalk or not. I don't know if it comes out of a bunny suit.
Why not, right?
Yeah. Are you volunteering to be the Easter Bunny?
I'll come and let people throw chalk at me.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know. It depends on what the temperature is, whether I'll put that Easter Bunny suit on or not.
Yeah, it might be snowing.
But I'll come and they can throw chalk at a radio guy.
That'd be good.
Hilarious photos from these color runs. I've seen, posted on social media, but that's very cool. A fundraiser for the library, which is also expanding there in North Logan. There's a lot. We could probably have filled a whole show, but appreciating the time that you have taken to come down and talk to us about what's going on in Logan City. For listeners, if you want to know more, northlogancity.org is the website. I've linked to that on our Facebook page, and you can see everything from the calendar events for the fund run and library fundraiser to everything happening before then and everything they've got planned throughout the summer. And our guest, again, has been Recreation Director at North Logan City, Jesse Howe. And Jesse, I appreciate you taking some time for... We used to have a Jess here on the show. My brain's just... Thanks for taking the time to come down. And always a pleasure checking with North Logan City. And please give the mayor a hard time for us.
She does a lot of our rec programs, so I see her every so often. I like to give her a hard time.
Yeah, just I don't know. Fun. Think of something. Say you're new.
You're new.
No, I'm kidding. Don't say that. No, it's a pleasure to have you here in the studio, and always a pleasure to talk about North Logan. Exciting to see where the city goes from here as it continues to grow. This doesn't mean there aren't challenges. Every city in the valley facing those, of course. But again, North Logan and Nibley City are two cities that if you want to see, I think, what could be happening in your city, if you don't live in those cities, keep an eye on them. And then maybe pressure your city to adopt some of this. It's a great way to engage with residents, plan for the future, and to keep everybody having fun. So hats off for that, Jesse. And again, appreciate your time.
No, you're welcome.
And for listeners, appreciate your time. Stay tuned. On the other side of the news, we'll talk a little bit about this new veterinary school at Utah State University. How did it come about? Why was the legislature excited to fund it in this recent legislative session? What does it mean for the future of jobs and the economy in Cache Valley? Well, we'll talk about it all with Vice President Ken White. Craig Hislop had a chance to talk with him, and you can hear that on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:35, and the news is brought to you by Whole Tree Care. As usual, Utah lawmakers passed a budget for fiscal year 2023 in the closing minutes of their general legislative session on March 4th. Senator Chris Wilson of Logan reports that the historic $25 million spending package funded education and social services at record levels while significantly investing in water and infrastructure projects. They also implemented a $193 million tax cut for Utahns, the second tax cut in 2 years. That tax cut includes an income tax reduction from $495 to $485, or 4.95 to 4.85%, worth $163 million annually. A $16 million non-refundable earned income tax credit, and a $15 million expansion of the state Social Security tax credit. Although the budget was augmented with healthy doses of federal money, Wilson says lawmakers still took a conservative approach to spending amid concerns about increasing inflation. Utah is taking new action to reduce the death of wildlife due to roads and highways. Congress allocated $350 million in the bipartisan infrastructure package to fund projects across the country. States must provide 20% of the funds for projects, and Utah has approved $1 million to be set aside to address one of the most dangerous spots for wildlife in the state. Bill Christensen with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation explains funding will be used for fences, underpasses, and other measures near I-80 and I-84 to allow for safe wildlife migration.
The estimates are that as many deer and elk are killed on the highways as on legal hunts during the year. So this is a major problem, and that doesn't include the damage to life and property that can happen for people when they hit animals on the highway.
According to the Utah Wildlife Migration Initiative, crossing structures and fences reduce wildlife vehicle collisions by 90%. Roughly 60 wildlife crossings are already installed statewide. The Utah legislature also approved House Bill 427, which requires the Department of Transportation to report annually on wildlife mitigation measures. Representative Doug Owen sponsored the bill.
They're already gathering that data that relates to that. So this bill is basically an invitation to involve the public. They report on it publicly, and then that provides an avenue for the public to get involved in understanding what the agency is thinking and doing, and we'll give them an avenue to comment back.
The Parley Summit Wildlife Bridge, which was completed in 2018, had more than 700 recorded wildlife crossings last year alone. Be advised, traffic light at 1000 West 200 North in Logan still out after a vehicle crash earlier today. Police are asking motorists to avoid the intersection if possible. It should be fixed in the next hour or so. Officers are directing traffic. Traffic appears to be backed up, though, on 200 North Highway 30, both approaching 1000 West from the east and also from the west. So you definitely may want to avoid that intersection. KVNU News Time is 5:39.
Is it too early to bring up yard work? What? Okay, but this is different. I'm talking about tree pruning. I know we haven't escaped winter yet, but right now is the best time to prune your trees. And the only thing you have to do is call Whole Tree Care, 760-6587. Right now they're offering an exclusive radio discount, so be sure to ask for it when you call, 760-6587. Get ahead of the spring rush. Get your trees and shrubs trimmed by Whole Tree Care, 760-6587.
KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low 0 to 5 above. Partly cloudy in the morning, then mostly sunny skies, high around 30. Partly cloudy around 40 degrees on Saturday. A cool 27 today. Right now it's 25 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Berenson Caldwell. When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal advice. It's time for you to get the Bear, Berenson Caldwell. Visit BerensonLaw.com. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Get a second dose of Al Lewis in the late afternoons this week. You had him during our show yesterday, actually, 4:30 to 5:30.
He crashed the show.
Crashed the show. We were happy to turn the mics over to him.
For a good cause.
He is Al Lewis. We know who he is.
And it's Utah State
yeah.
game day.
And Aggie Call. So, yeah, that was Aggie Call after the game last night. And then Al will be back tonight right at 6 o'clock. So, and happy to give him that time. Well, Dave Ramsey is happy to give him that time tonight.
Yeah.
So
we talked to Dave. He's cool.
Checked in with him. He said, for the Aggies, yeah, we'll do it.
And for Al especially.
That's right. So Al Lewis coming up at 6 o'clock. Before then, though, I hesitated on holding this to the end of the show because I am so excited to talk about it, but it just fit with the schedule today. But this is one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen play out when it comes to Utah State University legislative appropriations and the general session. The reason it fascinated me is I thought, it came out of nowhere and then had zero to very little opposition. And yet, it wasn't a small amount, and it is an amount that will, it's a finite amount of funding, but it's to start a new school at Utah State University, which means funding will likely be ongoing for this. Now that can change over the years. It doesn't mean taxpayers will be funding it entirely the entire time, because of course the tuition gets mixed in, and then the university can get creative about their own fundraising. So the mix of funding will change. I don't mean to imply that, but it oftentimes takes either a huge, generous donor, which can cause problems for the university, as the Charles Koch donations to the business school have, with their center for whatever it is, kind of a little tainted now after some hijinks. So universities are careful and even kind of skittish about those large, multi-million-dollar donations. So oftentimes, public funding is the only way this can happen, get off the ground. And what it is it's public funding, taxpayer dollars, appropriated by the legislature just weeks ago during the appropriations process and only made final last week, that will fund a new school at Utah State University that I cannot believe didn't already exist. Honestly. In fact, I'm naive enough to have thought it did already exist. I mean, this is an ag college. USU has always been proud of its agricultural heritage, and the stuff they do up there in the School of Agriculture and Applied Sciences is amazing. And I've just took it for granted, I guess, that something like this already exists. But nowhere in northern Utah has there, until now, been a veterinary school. A school that will actually train veterinarians who then could work here in Cache Valley, other places throughout the Intermountain West. And it is just a no-brainer that this would exist at Utah State University. Again, this was the part that fascinated me because I thought it did. And so I started asking around during the session, where this come from. And basically it's that. The business community has been fully supportive of this, as we learned from the Cache Chamber president last week. This is the one bill they were watching the most closely there at the Chamber of Commerce because they know its potential impact that can really mean a lot of jobs. And if you've been to a vet recently for your doggy or your kitty or your cow or your sheep, they're pretty busy. This is one aspect of population growth here in Utah that I don't think anyone really thought about. I know I didn't until now. And well, actually I did last spring when I tried to get an appointment and it was a month out for something that I'd normally been able to do walk-in. They're pretty swamped. And the pandemic, of course, meant a lot of new pet adoptions as well. So it's busy out there. But that's not the only reason this is happening. It's happening because USU is an agricultural college, and there was not a vet school there yet before. I still cannot believe this. Anyway, I'll shut up about that. The part that was really fascinating is that this came as a request to the legislature. Senator Chris Wilson here in Cache Valley really fought for this, and it had some opposition a bit at first, mainly not because anyone thought this was a bad idea, but because every school wanted a big chunk of the surpluses this year. And USU made the most compelling case. So they won out over some requests from other universities for new schools of various types. But why they won out is also pretty interesting. So we reached out. KVNU's Craig Hislop had a chance to talk with Vice President Ken White about the new veterinary school at Utah State University.
Well, thank you, Jason. The first ever College of Veterinary Medicine in Utah is going to be established at Utah State University, thanks to a commitment by the Utah legislature to provide ongoing state funding for its creation. A new appropriation of $18 million in annual funding is making this possible. Ken White is USU's dean. He's the vice president for agriculture and extension. He joins us. Ken, apparently there's a shortage of veterinarians in this state, so the need is there. But how long has USU sought to have this happen?
Well, again, when we first went to the legislature back in 2011, a lot of the legislators at the time were surprised we didn't have a College of Veterinary Medicine, and then at the same time we're also wondering why we didn't just create a 4-year veterinary school at that time. But I think we did it the right way. We've created the 2+2 program. That's been extremely successful, but as you mentioned, it hasn't been able to keep up with the demand for trained and qualified veterinarians here in the state of Utah.
Just for the edification of everybody listening, it's been the last 10 years USU has been part of this regional program in veterinary medicine where students complete a couple of years of study in Logan, then they move to Pullman, Washington to complete their final 2 years of training up there at Washington State. So it has been adequate, but not the best way to do it, I guess.
Well, it's been a great opportunity for the students in Utah to access a career in veterinary medicine and be able to do it at in-state tuition levels. So it's been very successful, but in that model, we've been confined to just 20 Utah resident seats and an additional 10 non-resident seats. So a total of 30 students, 20 of which are Utah residents. So, the need for veterinarians has just continued to grow. Utah is 42nd in the country with respect to the number of veterinarians per capita of population of the state. So, there's plenty of room for us to grow. On top of that, with the pandemic and people looking for additional companionship, the pet ownership has really skyrocketed. So those two things combined have really created a tremendous need in the state of Utah for additional veterinarians.
Well, tell us about what eventually, when it's built up and running at full capacity, how many students you'll have, and I'm sure that you'll begin with a lesser number. I guess that's something you got to build up to.
Yes, so we will, again, there's still a lot of work to do. We'll have to get the new college provisionally accredited with the governing body that's referred to the COE, the Council on Education, with the American Veterinary Medical Association. So that'll take a lot of time and work. And then we'll have to construct a new building to house the college, but we'll transition to initially about 40 to 45 students, and then once we have all the facilities in place, our plan is to transition up to 80 students. So we'll have 80 students per class, which will eventually create 4 classes in the college, and we'll have a total of 320 students in the college. That will also create additional opportunities for faculty and staff. We anticipate approximately 65 faculty positions in this college and an equal number of staff positions. So, there'll be a lot of work, but when we're finally finished, there'll be 80 students per class.
I think of a veterinarian. You touched on this a little bit. I think of a veterinarian when our family pet needs help. But when you consider animal agriculture is a billion-dollar enterprise in Utah, you can appreciate how we need more veterinarians.
Absolutely, and there are rural areas of the state that really still struggle to access appropriate veterinary care. So, and not only are veterinarians key for the common, pets, house pets, and so forth, but also in the work they do with keeping food animals healthy and with wildlife. They also are a very important bridge between animal and human health, and trying to help maintain positive health in both animals as well as humans.
And another consideration, and you're well aware of this, for every dollar the state invests in a school of veterinary medicine, it attracts an average of $2.50 of research funding.
Correct. That's exactly right, Craig. A lot of that is NIH funding as well as USDA funding, and it goes back to what I said earlier. That close linkage between animal disease and human disease results in a lot of federal funding to study diseases that are potentially either already a concern on the human side or have the high potential to be a concern on the human side.
Well, given the need of all, first of all, in the state for veterinarians, and the amount of time that it has been sought here to do it this way, and now it's finally happening. Such great news for us on campus, but for the entire state. And I appreciate you taking some time to help us understand what's going on and what's going to happen from here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a win for the state of Utah. We've taken students from every degree granting institution in the state of Utah into our existing 2+2 program. So we see it as a great opportunity for all Utah students.
It's Ken White, USU's Dean and Vice President for Agriculture and Extension, joining us today. Thanks to him. And Jason and Bill, back to you guys now.
Thank you, Craig. This is going to be interesting to watch. And like I say, my biggest surprise about all of this is that it didn't already exist, or that there wasn't one in northern Utah yet, a veterinary school. But now there will be one at Utah State University with a pledge again for ongoing funding from the state of Utah on this. It says two things. It says, one, the state of Utah in general, the legislature recognizes the worth of Utah State University when it comes to this type of thing. An ag school should be hosting and operating what apparently will be the first veterinary school in Utah. The second,
and is that true? It's not only the first in Utah, but in the Intermountain West.
I did some Googling, and I'm not 100%.
Colorado State has one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That was the closest I could find was Colorado State, and then some up in Washington. Yeah, Colorado State is where, in fact, I asked my vet, and that's where my vet went to school. It was Colorado State. And then there is one up in the state of Washington. But I was surprised. I always just assumed
not very many
that an ag college, an ag university like Utah State University, I sort of assumed they were already doing this. But I'm glad they are now, and I hope it results in a lot more vets here in the Valley because it's kind of a long wait time for certain veterinarian services out there right now. But also, this just expands the footprint of the Agricultural and Applied Sciences Department there at Utah State University. By the way, if you want to hear some interesting discussion about this during the legislative session, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. But at le.utah.gov, the legislative site, you can go back and find the bill, which was originally started out as Senate Bill 247. And then that was scrapped. And so go to the appropriations bill. Just search for state budget. Basically, the easiest way to find it there at le.utah.gov. And in that appropriations bill, you'll find links to all of this. But I've linked directly to the audio of the debates during the appropriations committee meeting and more over this and some of the other funding that was sort of challenging this. And it's a fascinating listen. Even though it's now old news, this passed, this is part of the budget, this is funded, it's a done deal, and we'll be breaking ground at Utah State University soon. It's still interesting to hear the discussion around this. Why now is the time? Why the veterinary school hadn't happened before, or at least some guesses at that, and what it means. As President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce told us, this means for the business community, this means a lot of jobs. There is a lot of agriculture still happening here in Utah, all around us. And having a veterinary school right here in our own backyard is going to put us at the forefront of keeping that alive. So this is a huge deal. Check it out. I've linked to everything we just discussed on our Facebook page. Thanks again to Craig Hislop for reaching out to Vice President White there to discuss this. And keep your eyes on this one. We're going to wrap up just a bit early here today to make time for Al Lewis. Aggie Game Day coming up next here on KVNU Logan.
If you've been with the same insurance company for many years, you're probably experiencing rate creep. Hi, this is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. What is rate creep? This is where your rates increase every year, but your agent doesn't have any other options for you. Auto Owners Insurance and Quality First will give you options. Quality First Insurance, 752-0101, right in front of Fisher Home Furnishings. For more information, go to q1ins.com.
Hi, this is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. At White Pine, we value compassion, integrity, and service. We are committed to serving you and treating your family as our family. We will be here when you need us most, to listen, to help, and to provide exactly what your circumstances require. At White Pine, we promise to dedicate our time and attention to you and your family. We invite you to come by and meet us. We're confident you'll feel a difference.
Well, fans, it's the final play of the game. Home team's down by 1 point with 10 seconds on the clock. Johnson's looking for the open inbounds pass. He gets it to Dawson, and he breaks free. He's driving for a quick layup, and what? He stopped mid-drive. What's he doing? Insane! He just quit playing.
If you got your first vaccinations for COVID-19, don't stop there. Visit coronavirus.utah.gov to schedule your booster.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
Connect. It's what we do and where we go. We connect with people at home or at work, online or in person. Everyone needs connecting. At CBTD, we are committed to helping our community connect by providing a service for you, a service that gives some the independence that they otherwise might not have. Our employees are here to connect you with the people and places that matter most through our services and through our values. Learn more at cbtdbus.org.
Dear Legacy House, thank you so much for the way you care for Dad. I'm sure you've discovered what a character Dad is. Oh, he loves to tell stories. Heck, some of them might even be true. Like the time he fell asleep in a train car in Logan and ended up in Preston before he could get off. Dad wasn't excited to leave his farm where he spent the last 55 years, but we're sure glad we chose Legacy House. And honestly, he's glad we chose Legacy House.
Stop by on 1400 North in Logan. Legacy House of Logan.
Miss a minute? You're missing a lot. Breaking news, stimulating talk, News Talk, KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1